Singapore in the 50s was a place of deals and corruption and sort of a freewheeling port city in which everything happened. However, you came in and you wiped this out. You have made Singapore probably the least corrupt nation in the world. You also got rid of organized crime in Singapore. I'm told, I'd like to ask you about this also, I'm told there is a famous film clip from Singapore Broadcasting Corporation, the early days when you went to the studio and you had a couple of members of the triads rounded up and brought into the studio, and you confronted them directly and told them that either they were going to leave Singapore or you were going to leave Singapore. But I'd like you to talk about the various ways in which you altered this very fundamental fact of Singapore life and made it such an exemplary.
You can't alter it in one dramatic set of moves. This is an ongoing push, drive, never stops. But when we came in, corruption had already begun to creep. I mean, the government ahead of us was formed first by David Marshall, who was an honest man, a very able lawyer, and he didn't need to be corrupt. Then, when he resigned, a less able man called Lim Yew Hock took over. And under him was a very fractious government that was only held together because there was loot. So for about 3.5 years, it was beginning to get crummy and affecting the whole administration. This was one of our problems. We didn't feel strong enough to fight the communists to take over. But if we didn't fight to take over and we blocked the communists and we left this government for another 5 years, then we'll inherit a civil service that's corrupted. And then you've got weakened instruments, blunted instruments. So that forced us to take over. And when we took over, we decided that this was the critical factor. If we did not make it that every dollar that was put in at the top reaches the ground as $1, we're not going to succeed because we have few dollars. And the communists will just kill us. Look at it, another corrupt bunch. So we came in and we made a symbolic act. We dressed in white shirts, white trousers, and said we will be what we represent. We were also, of course, sickened by the hypocrisy and the venality of so many nationalist leaders that took power and within a short number of years just were living it up and running their countries down. So we had to be different. We knew the communists would kill us if we were not careful. And we had the incentive to want to see that every dollar reaches the ground. So we changed the rules, made it transparent, no discretion, everything was open. So if you do something unusual, your subordinate or your peers will notice. Then I also put the Anti-Corruption Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau under my personal portfolio so that everybody knew that I am personally going to lead this drive. So I gave the director the authority to investigate everybody and everything, all ministers, including myself. The first job was to get rid of the triads because they are part of Singapore society from time immemorial. They came from China and they lived off extortion. And just as in Taiwan, when you go into elections, they can intimidate or they can buy votes for you. In Taiwan, they call it black gold. And I was determined that because we were in the opposition and Lim Yew Hock used the triads, we told them during the election campaign, this is your last chance. When we win, you're out. So do your worst. You're not scaring us. But of course, by that time, the groundswell was so solidly on our side, they knew that we were most likely to win and we will deal with them. So having won, we just polished them off. We had special laws which the British had passed called Criminal Law Temporary Provisions Act, where you can't have evidence against a criminal because of his triad links or drug smuggling or whatever. You can lock him up for 2 years. And it goes to a special advisory committee where evidence is placed, not necessarily enough for a conviction in court. So within 2 years, we cleaned up the lot. And many moved off to Malaya and other places, and they never came back. Had we got them back, because the police and the army was attacking the populace, so we used them to fight them, I think then they would have grown, which was what happened in other parts of the world. But after that, it's just one hard slog to make sure. The venality is a failing which sometimes is difficult to explain. I mean, the most difficult of all to explain was when my own colleague, who built up all these beautiful houses, he is an architect, very able organizer, called Teh Chiang Wan. I've covered him in one of my chapters. He could have made a fortune outside just as an architect. But for some reason, he yielded to the temptation of taking $500,000 for adding an extra piece of land on a land sale so that the developer has a neat little completed plot. Then he did that for another one. And years later it popped up. And the investigations had to start. He wanted to see me to solve the problem. I said, if I see you, then I'll be a witness in court. So best not see me. Better see your lawyer. He committed suicide and he left a note and said, as an Oriental gentleman who believes in honor, I have to pay the supreme price. Died. And the family left because we had created by then, this was 85, 86, we had created in Singapore a climate of opinion which considers bribery, especially bribery graft in high places, as totally devastating to the society and the economy. But it's a heavy price, but it reminds every minister that there are no exceptions.